The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth flickered simultaneously, displaying the same warning in gleaming blue text: cease your expansion into space, or face extinction. The Galactic Empire had spoken, and humanity faced its first contact with alien life not with wonder, but with an ultimatum. Admiral James Walker stood at the United Earth Defense Command Center, his weathered face illuminated by the massive displays showing Earth's orbital defenses. 20 years of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. Around him, the command staff worked in tense silence, monitoring the massive alien vessel that hung in high orbit like a sword of Damocles. "They're giving us 48 hours to respond," said Director Tom Harris of the Global Space Initiative, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "Their ship is unlike anything we've ever seen, at least 50 times larger than our biggest space station." The Admiral's eyes narrowed as he studied the scans. The alien vessel resembled a massive arrowhead, its dark metal surface reflecting the sun's light in ways that seemed to defy physics. Their sensors could barely penetrate its hull, but what little data they gathered suggested technology centuries beyond Earth's current capabilities. "We've spent the last century reaching for the stars," Walker said, his hands clasped behind his back. "We've established colonies on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and research stations around Jupiter. They're asking us to abandon everything we've built." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had finally achieved its dream of becoming a spacefaring civilization, and now an advanced alien empire wanted to clip their wings before they could truly fly. "What do we know about them?" Walker asked, turning to Dr. Linda Ross, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "They call themselves the Imperial Collective," she replied, pulling up data on her tablet. "From what we've decoded of their transmission, they've ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They see emerging civilizations as potential threats to their stability." Walker's jaw tightened. "So they crush them before they can grow." The next 48 hours saw the most intense diplomatic efforts in human history. The United Earth Council debated endlessly, while scientists and military strategists worked around the clock analyzing every bit of data they could gather about the alien vessel. But it was the discovery made by a young analyst named Mike Peters that changed everything. Hidden in the background radiation of the alien transmission was a treasure trove of technical data, whether leaked deliberately by dissenters within the Empire or accidentally through overconfidence, no one could say. "Look at this," Mike said, his fingers flying across his keyboard as he showed Walker the decoded data. "Their shield technology, it's advanced. But it has a fundamental weakness. They never developed protection against quantum tunneling particles because they never thought smaller civilizations would discover that technology." Walker leaned forward, his interest piqued. "But we did. Project Prometheus." "Exactly," Mike nodded enthusiastically. "The quantum torpedo project we've been developing for deep space mining, it could theoretically penetrate their shields." The Admiral's mind raced with possibilities. Humanity was outgunned, but they had something the Empire didn't expect: innovation born of necessity and the determination to survive. As the deadline approached, Walker presented an alternative to simple surrender or defiance. A plan that would require every ounce of human ingenuity and courage, but might give them a fighting chance. "We'll appear to comply," he explained to the Council. "But secretly, we'll be preparing. They think we're primitive, and that's our advantage. They won't expect us to have technology that could harm them, and they certainly won't expect us to strike back." The Council chambers erupted in heated discussion, but in the end, they agreed. Humanity would play the long game. They would bow their heads and appear to accept the Empire's demands, all while preparing for the greatest military operation in human history. As Walker watched Earth's official transmission of compliance being sent to the Imperial vessel, he couldn't help but smile slightly. The Empire thought they were dealing with sheep, but they would soon learn that humanity had teeth. "Let them think they've won," he muttered to himself. They have no idea what's coming. The massive alien ship departed Earth's orbit the next day, leaving behind automated monitoring stations to ensure compliance. But deep beneath the lunar surface, in hardened bunkers and secret facilities across the solar system, humanity was already beginning its preparations for resistance. The Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had given humanity time. And humans, as history had proven time and again, were remarkably good at using borrowed time to prepare for war. 5 years passed since the Empire's ultimatum. On the surface, humanity appeared to have accepted their chains. Space stations were abandoned, colonial operations scaled back, and exploration missions cancelled, all under the watchful eyes of the Empire's monitoring satellites. But deep within the asteroid belt, inside hollowed-out rocks and hidden facilities, humanity's greatest engineering project was taking shape. Admiral Walker, now with more gray in his hair but the same fire in his eyes, stood in the command center of the Forge, a massive hidden shipyard carved into the heart of Ceres. Before him, through reinforced windows, he watched as robots assembled the final pieces of humanity's first true warship. "The Defiant is almost ready," reported Captain Robert Miller, the ship's designated commander. "We've successfully integrated the quantum torpedo systems, and the stealth technology is performing beyond expectations." The ship was a marvel of human ingenuity. Unlike the Empire's massive, imposing vessels, the Defiant was sleek and relatively small. Its dark hull was covered in experimental metamaterials that absorbed rather than reflected light, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. But its true power lay in its weapons, quantum torpedoes designed to bypass Imperial shields entirely. "What's the status of the other facilities?" Walker asked, turning to his holographic display. "Mars Underground reports their fleet is at 80% completion," Miller replied. "The Jupiter shipyards are at 75%, and the Saturn Rings facility is ahead of schedule at 85%. The Empire's arrogance had worked in humanity's favor. Their automated monitoring systems watched for large-scale space operations but ignored the asteroid belt and outer planets, considering them too harsh and resource-poor for meaningful development. They hadn't counted on human determination or creativity." Dr. Ross, who had spent the last 5 years studying the Empire's leaked technical data, entered the command center with excitement clear on her face. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough in understanding their communication networks." She pulled up a complex diagram showing the Empire's faster-than-light communication relay system. Their entire command structure relies on these quantum entanglement relays. "We've found a way to temporarily disrupt them using modified versions of our quantum torpedo technology." Walker smiled grimly. "So we can blind them?" "Better," Dr. Ross replied. "We can isolate their ships from receiving orders. Their strict hierarchy means ship commanders rarely act without direct authorization from their superiors. If we cut off their communications, they'll be paralyzed," Miller finished, understanding dawning on his face. The pieces of humanity's grand plan were falling into place. While the Empire thought they had contained a primitive species, humans had been studying their every weakness, developing countermeasures, and preparing for a war unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Mike Peters, now heading the Cyber Warfare Division, joined them with his own update. "The virus is ready," he announced. "Once we launch our attack, it will infect their monitoring satellites and feed them false data. They won't know we're coming until it's too late." Walker nodded, feeling the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. "How many ships total?" 200 stealth frigates, 50 carriers housing our new space fighter squadrons, and the Defiant as our flagship," Miller reported. "All equipped with quantum torpedoes and our best stealth technology. We've also completed the automated defense networks around Earth, Mars, and our other colonies, hidden beneath the surface or disguised as debris." The Admiral walked to the window, watching the workers make final adjustments to the Defiant's hull. "The Empire thinks they broke our spirit," he said quietly. They think we're just another primitive race they've contained. But they don't understand humans. We don't accept cages. Dr. Ross approached with a tablet showing the latest intelligence. Their nearest major fleet base is 3 light-years from our solar system. The monitoring station there has a crew of only 50 Imperial officers, overseeing this entire sector. They're completely unprepared for any kind of resistance. That's our first target, Walker declared. We'll strike there, blind their communications, and establish a foothold before they can respond. The Empire's about to learn that giving humans time to prepare was their greatest mistake. The next few days were a flurry of activity as final preparations were made. Crews ran countless drills, weapons were checked and rechecked, and the last pieces of the stealth fleet were brought online. In his quarters aboard the Defiant, Walker recorded a message for Earth's archives. Today marks 5 years since humanity appeared to surrender to the Empire's demands. Tomorrow, we show them the cost of underestimating the human spirit. We've turned their own arrogance against them, preparing in plain sight while they dismissed us as primitive and compliant. They thought they were containing a potential threat, instead, they created one. The message was broadcast to every hidden facility in the solar system, where crews made final preparations for the most ambitious military operation in human history. The stealth fleet gathered in the outer solar system, hidden from the Empire's watching eyes by the bulk of Jupiter and the interference from its massive magnetic field. As Walker took his place on the Defiance bridge, he thought about how far humanity had come. In just 5 years, they had advanced their technology by centuries, driven by the need to survive and the determination to remain free. All ships report ready, Admiral, Miller announced from his captain's chair. Walker looked at the tactical display showing their gathered fleet, humanity's answer to Imperial oppression. Send the signal, he ordered. Operation Prometheus begins now. Throughout the solar system, hidden ships powered up their engines. The Empire had tried to clip humanity's wings, but instead, they had forced humans to learn to soar in the dark. Now, it was time to strike back from the shadows they had been forced to inhabit. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace 3 light-minutes from the Imperial monitoring station. The massive structure hung in space like a crystalline snowflake, its delicate spires housing the quantum communication relays that helped maintain the Empire's iron grip on this sector of space. Admiral Walker stood on the Defiance bridge, watching the tactical display as their stealth systems kept them hidden from Imperial sensors. The station's defenses were minimal. The Empire had never expected anyone to dare attack them here. All ships maintain position, Walker ordered. Begin Phase 1. Throughout the fleet, crews activated their electronic warfare suites. The virus developed by Mike Peters and his team spread through subspace, targeting the Imperial monitoring satellites throughout the solar system. Back home, those automated watchers would now feed false data to their masters, showing nothing but normal activity in the Sol system. Phase 1 complete, reported Captain Miller. We're officially ghosts. Walker nodded grimly. Launch cyber warfare probes. Let's see how their station's internal systems like our little surprise. Small, stealthy drones detached from the human ships, drifting toward the Imperial station. These carried a more sophisticated version of the virus, designed to infiltrate and corrupt the station's primary systems. Station's external sensors are going dark, Mike announced from his position at the cyber warfare console. Internal communications are scrambling. They're blind and confused, sir. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Phase 2. All ships, power up quantum torpedo systems. Target their communication arrays first. We can't let them alert the Empire. The human fleet decloaked as one, appearing like ghosts materializing from the void. The Defiant led the charge, its sleek form a stark contrast to the ornate Imperial architecture before them. Inside the station, alarms began to blare as their sensors finally detected the human ships, but it was too late. The first volley of quantum torpedoes streaked across space, their exotic particles ignoring shields and armor alike. The station's delicate communication spires shattered, severing its connection to the Imperial network. Multiple direct hits, Miller reported. Their quantum relays are offline. The station is cut off. Imperial ships launching, tactical announced. 3 patrol cruisers on an intercept course. Walker studied the Imperial vessels. They were larger than the human ships, their golden hulls gleaming with power and arrogance. But size wasn't everything. Deploy fighters, Walker ordered. Show them what humanity has learned. Squadrons of space fighters poured from the carriers, their designs unlike anything the Empire had seen. Where Imperial ships relied on brute force and overwhelming power, these human craft were agile and stealthy, armed with miniaturized versions of the quantum torpedoes. The Imperial cruisers opened fire with their energy weapons, filling space with deadly beams of light. But the human ships were ready, their metamaterial hulls absorbing or deflecting much of the energy while their superior maneuverability kept them out of the heaviest fire. Fighter Squadron Alpha, engaging first cruiser, the squadron leader reported. Quantum torpedoes armed. The human fighters struck like wasps, darting past the Imperial shields to deliver precise strikes with their quantum weapons. The first cruiser's engines exploded, sending it spinning helplessly through space. The second cruiser suffered a similar fate as fighters targeted its weapon systems. The third Imperial cruiser tried to retreat, but the Defiant was waiting. The human flagship fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes, ripping through the Imperial vessel's supposedly impenetrable defenses. The mighty ship broke apart, its crew never having understood how their superior technology had been defeated. Station is hailing us, communications reported. They're offering to surrender. Walker straightened his uniform. Put them on screen. The station commander appeared, his alien features twisted in a mix of shock and fear. This is impossible, he stammered. You're a contained species. Primitive. How did you? You made a mistake, Walker interrupted. You thought forcing us to hide would make us weak. Instead, it made us dangerous. Humanity doesn't break under pressure, we adapt, we evolve, and we overcome. The station's surrender was processed quickly. Human Marines, equipped with advanced boarding armor developed in secret, secured the facility. The Empire's databases were downloaded, providing a wealth of tactical information about fleet movements and defense positions throughout the sector. Casualties? Walker asked as the fighting ended. Minimal, sir, Miller reported. 3 fighters lost, crews ejected safely. No capital ships damaged. The quantum torpedoes performed better than expected. Dr. Ross was already analyzing the captured Imperial technology. Their arrogance is astounding, she reported. They haven't made any significant defensive improvements in centuries. They never thought they'd need to. That changes today, Walker declared. Send word to Earth. Phase 3 begins now. Throughout the captured station, human technicians began converting it into their first forward operating base. The Empire's own facility would become the staging ground for humanity's expansion into their territory. Imperial reaction time estimate? Walker asked. Mike consulted his data. Without their quantum communications, news of our attack will have to travel by conventional channels. We have at least 72 hours before their nearest major fleet could respond. More than enough time to fortify our position, Miller added. Our engineering teams are already adapting Imperial technology to work with our systems. We'll be ready for them. Walker looked out at the scene before him, human ships docked alongside the captured Imperial station, crews working to transform it into a fortress that would help guard humanity's new frontier. The Empire had tried to contain humanity, to force them into submission through fear and intimidation. Instead, They had created their worst nightmare, a species that had learned to fight from the shadows, to turn their own technological superiority against them, and to strike at their weakest points. "Send a message to all ships," Walker ordered. "The first phase of Operation Prometheus is complete. But this is just the beginning. The Empire wanted to cage humanity, now they'll learn why that was their greatest mistake." As the human fleet secured their position, Walker knew the real war was about to begin. But humanity was ready. They had spent 5 years preparing for this moment, and they would not waste their chance. The Empire had created an enemy unlike any they had faced before. Now they would face the consequences of their actions, one quantum torpedo at a time. The Imperial High Command was in chaos. For the first time in over 1,000 years, their perfect system of control had been breached. The loss of the monitoring station was just the beginning. In the week that followed, human strike forces hit 5 more Imperial outposts, each attack more daring than the last. On the Imperial capital world of Prime, the Grand Commander slammed his fist on the holographic display. How is this possible? They were contained. Their technology was primitive. His advisors cowered before his rage. The latest reports showed another sector command center had gone dark, its quantum communication relay destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant, Admiral Walker reviewed the success of their expanding campaign. The captured Imperial station, now renamed Liberty Point, had become the heart of human operations in this sector. "The Empire's response is exactly as we predicted," Dr. Ross reported, showing tactical displays of Imperial fleet movements. "They're pulling their forces back, trying to concentrate them for protection. They're leaving entire sectors vulnerable." Captain Miller nodded in agreement. "Their rigid command structure is working against them. Without direct orders from their superiors, most Imperial commanders won't even move their ships." Walker studied the map of their recent victories. Human forces had struck like lightning, never staying in one place long enough for the Empire to mount an effective response. The quantum torpedoes had proven devastating, but it was humanity's tactical flexibility that truly gave them the edge. "New intelligence from our deep space probes," Mike announced, rushing into the command center. "We've intercepted Imperial communications. They're calling an emergency session of their High Council. Our attacks have thrown their entire power structure into disarray." The Admiral allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. "How are our new recruits adapting?" The question referred to the growing number of Imperial citizens who had begun secretly supporting the human cause. Not every species in the Empire appreciated their ruler's heavy-handed approach to governance. "Better than expected," Miller replied. "The ones who've joined us are amazed by our adaptability. Apparently, the Empire's been suppressing technological innovation across their territory for centuries. They call it maintaining stability." A tactical alert interrupted their discussion. "Imperial response fleet detected," the sensor operator announced. 3 dreadnoughts and supporting vessels, approaching from the Centauri sector. Walker moved to the tactical display. This would be their first major fleet engagement, a test of whether humanity's advantages could hold up against the Empire's concentrated might. "Deploy the Ghost Swarm," he ordered. Throughout the sector, hidden human ships emerged from their stealth positions. The Empire had expected to catch the rebel humans in a massive show of force. Instead, they found themselves surrounded. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Delta," Walker commanded. "Let's show them how humans fight." The battle that followed would be studied for generations to come. Imperial dreadnoughts, massive and powerful, found themselves tormented by swarms of smaller human vessels that seemed to appear and disappear at will. Quantum torpedoes struck from impossible angles, guided by targeting systems that adapted faster than Imperial countermeasures could respond. "Enemy flagship is breaking formation," Tactical reported. "Their coordinated defense is falling apart." Walker watched as the Imperial fleet's rigid battle doctrine crumbled in the face of human unpredictability. Where the Empire expected ships to maintain strict formations, human vessels danced through space in seemingly chaotic patterns that somehow worked in perfect concert. Their center is exposed, Miller pointed out. Time to deliver the killing blow. The Defiant led a concentrated strike on the Imperial command ship. Quantum torpedoes breached its shields, while electronic warfare systems shut down its weapons. In less than an hour, the pride of the Imperial fleet was reduced to drifting wreckage. Enemy forces are retreating, communications announced. They're broadcasting a general withdrawal order. The victory was decisive, but Walker knew better than to celebrate too early. Begin recovery operations. I want all damaged ships repaired and ready for action within 12 hours. The Empire won't take this defeat lightly. In the aftermath of the battle, Dr. Ross made an interesting discovery while analyzing captured Imperial databases. Look at this, she said, pulling up ancient historical records. We're not the first species to resist the Empire, but we're the first to do it successfully. All previous rebellions were crushed because they tried to fight the Empire head-on, matching strength with strength. But we fought smarter, Miller added. Used their own rigid nature against them. Walker nodded. The Empire's greatest weakness is their inability to adapt. They've been the dominant power for so long, they've forgotten how to face a real challenge. Reports from across the sector confirmed their advantage. Imperial forces were falling back everywhere, trying to protect their core worlds while leaving their frontier largely undefended. The Empire's attempt to contain humanity had backfired spectacularly, now they were the ones being contained. Message from Earth, communications announced. The Council wants to know our next move. Walker studied the strategic display, noting the positions of recently liberated worlds and potential allies among the Empire's subject species. The human success had inspired others. Already, there were reports of uprising on worlds that had been under Imperial control for millennia. Tell them Phase 4 begins now, he replied. It's time to show the galaxy that the age of Imperial dominance is over. Humanity didn't just learn to survive their containment, we learned how to lead a revolution. As the Defiant prepared for its next mission, Walker reflected on how far they'd come. The Empire had tried to cage humanity, believing they were preventing a potential threat. Instead, they had created exactly what they feared most, a species that had learned to fight from necessity, to innovate from desperation, and to win against impossible odds. The Empire's warning to humanity had been clear: stay contained, or face extinction. Now, as human ships spread across the sector, breaking Imperial control wherever they found it, a new message was being sent: humanity would never accept chains, and those who tried to bind them would learn the cost of their mistake. 1 year after humanity's first strike, the galaxy had changed forever. The Imperial capital world of Prime was no longer an untouchable sanctuary of power, but a fortress under siege. A combined fleet of human ships and allied species, those who had risen up against their former Imperial masters, surrounded the system. Admiral Walker stood on the Defiance Bridge, now scarred from countless battles but still as deadly as ever. The tactical display showed thousands of ships in formation around Prime, a testament to how far humanity's rebellion had spread. The last Imperial holdouts in the outer sectors have surrendered, Captain Miller reported. Their entire empire has effectively been reduced to this single system. Dr. Ross approached with her latest analysis. Their defensive grid is impressive, but it's based on the same technologies we've been defeating all year. They still haven't found a counter to our quantum torpedoes. The Empire's inability to adapt had proven to be their ultimate downfall. While they clung to their traditional tactics and technologies, humanity had continued to innovate. Each battle brought new improvements, new strategies, new ways to fight. Message from the Imperial High Command, communications announced. They're requesting a parley. A murmur of surprise ran through the bridge. The Empire, which had once commanded 1,000,000 worlds, was asking to negotiate with a species they had tried to contain just 6 years ago. "Put them through," Walker ordered, straightening his uniform. The holographic image of the Grand Commander appeared, his once proud bearing now weighted with defeat. "Admiral Walker," he said, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance. "We wish to discuss terms. The last time your empire communicated with humanity, it was to deliver an ultimatum," Walker replied calmly. "You demanded our submission and threatened our extinction. Why should we offer you better terms?" The Grand Commander's expression tightened. "Because you've proven to be different from any species we've encountered. Where others would seek revenge, perhaps you will show wisdom." Walker allowed a small smile. "We've already shown wisdom. It's why we're here and you're there. But you're right about one thing, we are different. We don't seek to dominate, as your empire did. We want to build something new." Over the next hours, representatives from Earth and the liberated worlds joined the negotiations. The terms were clear: the empire would be dissolved, its territories reorganized into an alliance of free worlds. Advanced technology would no longer be restricted but shared for the benefit of all species. "They're accepting our terms," Mike reported, monitoring the diplomatic channels. "The Empire is officially surrendering." As the news spread throughout the fleet, celebrations began on thousands of ships. But Walker remained focused on the future. "Begin landing operations," he ordered. "I want security teams on every major facility. The transition needs to be smooth." The liberation of Prime marked not just the end of the Empire, but the beginning of something unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity, the species that had been ordered to remain confined to their solar system, was now leading the formation of a new galactic society. "It's ironic," Dr. Ross said, watching as human ships took up protective positions around Prime. "They feared us becoming a threat, and that fear created exactly what they wanted to prevent." "Not exactly," Walker corrected her. "They feared we would become like them, another empire seeking dominance. Instead, we became something they couldn't understand, liberators." In the days that followed, Walker led the establishment of a transitional council. Representatives from Earth sat alongside delegates from hundreds of formerly subjugated species, working together to build a new system of governance based on cooperation rather than control. The former Imperial Palace, a vast structure of crystal and metal, was transformed into the headquarters of the new Galactic Alliance. Where once imperial edicts were issued without question, now debate and discussion echoed through its halls. "Message from Earth," Miller announced one morning, as Walker oversaw the continuing transition. "The Council has approved the final draft of the Alliance Charter. We're officially moving forward with the new government structure." Walker nodded, feeling the weight of history in this moment. "Send word to all fleet commands. Operation Prometheus is officially complete. We're beginning a new phase, one of peace and reconstruction." The Defiant's final mission under Walker's command was a tour of the newly freed worlds. Everywhere they went, they saw the same sight: people of different species working together, sharing technology and knowledge that had been restricted for millennia under imperial rule. On the last day of his command, Walker stood in the observation deck, watching ships from 100 different worlds moving peacefully through space. Dr. Ross joined him, carrying a data tablet with the latest reports. "The quantum communication network has been fully converted," she reported. "It's now connecting all Alliance worlds, sharing knowledge instead of enforcing control. We're seeing technological advances that would have been impossible under the Empire." "And the former Imperial citizens?" Walker asked. "Most have adapted surprisingly well to the new system. Turns out a lot of them were just as unhappy with the old regime as everyone else. They just never thought change was possible until we showed them it was." Walker smiled, thinking back to that day 6 years ago when the Empire had delivered their ultimatum. They had thought they were containing a primitive species, preventing a potential future threat. Instead, they had created the force that would not only end their dominion but transform the galaxy into something better. Humanity's greatest strength, he mused, wasn't our technology or our tactics. It was our ability to imagine a different future, and our determination to make it real. As the Defiant prepared for its final approach to Earth, Walker drafted his last official message as Fleet Admiral. 6 years ago, the Empire warned humanity to know our place. Today, we've shown them that humanity's place is not in chains, but in leading the way to a future where no species faces containment or suppression. They tried to clip our wings, instead, we taught the galaxy to soar. The Empire's warning to humanity had been intended to prevent their rise. Instead, it had catalyzed the greatest transformation in galactic history. Where there had been stagnation, now there was growth. Where there had been fear, now there was hope. And it all began because the Empire had made one crucial mistake: they had threatened a species that didn't know how to surrender, only how to adapt, overcome, and lead the way to something better.